So we will continue to build on Vivian's thoughts and ideas about creativity to go a little deeper into the conference theme, unity and creative collaboration. Next slide, please. And as I move further into building a foundation for cooperation and collaboration, I just want to take a moment to acknowledge this 752nd day of this horrific war that Russia began, full-scale invasion, and say to my Ukrainian colleagues, you are doing the courageous work of tending and taking care of the mental health of your people, of yourself and your people. So I would like to, at this point, continue to build on a foundation of the importance of having the courage to break out of the simple and single silos and think beyond the box for creative collaborations and the importance of that. And how we as art therapists and music and dance therapists, the arts, have such a critical role, an important role in playing in terms of building the vitality, the resilience, and the mental health during this time and way beyond, when there finally will be victory and a peace. So I'll try to share some thoughts around the foundation for this, for the importance of we as arts therapists. And hopefully that might lead towards more, even more creative collaborations. Next, so in summary, unity through expressive arts. And when we use the term expressive arts, we are thinking of an integrative process of all realms of society, education, mental health, healthcare, community, and beyond, towards a creative collaboration between everyone. And we as arts therapists can do this. Next slide, please. So I want to go back first to the roots of unity and integration and creativity. And if you take a look, uni from unity, consisting of one, from the Latin. There's even a Polish component to the root of the word, uniat, from unja, which is church union between Greek and Roman. Interesting. And that unity leads to union in terms of roots. So I'd like to just remind us we're on solid ground. We're on solid footing for thinking of being united through all of the arts. Being united makes us stronger in delivering mental health services. Next slide, please. From unity, now we move into the word and the concept integration. I've worked my entire career, over 40 years, Vivian also, as integrative arts therapists. We work with the image, we work with art, and then I work with the drama and the music. And the core, the key to that has been integration, to make whole. And what that means is bringing all the pieces together, bringing all the parts together. Something old, something new, something borrowed, something blue, and something imagined. Next slide, please. this is adding some important foundation to our work as arts therapists. This is from the National Academies of Science and Engineering and Medicine. So what's beginning to happen in our world today, we as artists and arts therapists are gaining recognition and support through the sciences, through medicine, through engineering, through biology. I won't go deeply into this, but I want to just bring your attention to we have true and real support. So this is a report from 2018, that's current. Branches from the same tree from the National Academies of Science. And I'll read this quote. Please read it in Ukrainian. In this approach, we refer to, in this report, simply as integration. Professors, educators helping students, helping people understand the connection among the disciplines and emphasize the point made by Albert Einstein that all the disciplines and forms of inquiry are branches from the same tree. That's worth repeating, that all the disciplines and forms of inquiry are branches from the same tree. And extending this metaphor, advocates of integration see all human knowledge as fundamentally connected, a network of branches rising from the trunk, made up of human curiosity, passion, and drive. And this is what our work is about. Our passion for inquiry to help others. And if one branch falls, a new branch arises with new ideas and thought. Next slide, please. And this is just one example of one tree that works, that deals with contemplation. Many of you are familiar with lots of these branches. I just wanted to give an example. We can now create lots of trees with many branches, but if we follow science and understand the importance of integration, we see that we gain support for many branches, but finding the integrative spirit in this. Next slide, please. This is an example of a project Vivian and I did called The Living Tree. I won't spend too much time, but this was after our tragedy in the United States, September 11, 2001, when the planes went into the World Trade Center. And we went around to many community centers. People needed social support. They needed emotional support. So Vivian and I and a team of arts therapists went around for 3 months to the community, and we offered a workshop on the living tree. In the trunk holds the raw emotion, the pain, the difficulty. In the branches, part 2 of the workshop, it holds the trust and the care and the love. Just like so many of you are doing in the communities in Ukraine, holding the difficult raw emotion, that's the beauty of our work as arts therapists. We hold, but at some way we also instill hope and inspiration. And that is critical in our work. Next slide, please. So as I'm talking, you create your images and your methods and your workshops and ideas through your own willow and viburnum trees. So please take a moment to just contemplate on how these words fit for your process and your courage to continue to create. Next slide, please. I'm going to move quickly through this, but I wanted to give one more example of integration. In the United States, working with the disabled, already from 1975, we had government support for integrating the arts into working with the disabled. So this concept of integration is not new, but we need to be reminded we are so much stronger in bringing the work out to the entire nation if we unite into creative collaborations. And here's a slide, one of the children that we worked with 15 years ago. Next slide, please. I just love this image of the care and love that comes across. And we'll move further. Next slide, please. There's that image. Thank you. Next slide, please. I'm going to move briskly. I'm going to through this next portion, but we see the connection from physics and biology in terms of supporting our work as integrative arts, educators and artists. So physics deals with matter, but I'm just going to jump to the bottom that the arts include the study of matter and form. And when we look at matter and form with art therapy and the arts therapies, we begin to pull forward the patterns and relationships. And this is important as we develop programs and collaborations with one another. We begin to understand the patterns and relationships. Next slide, please. Yeah. So the next part, we see how biology comes into a play in supporting our work, in understanding that the old expression, the whole is more than the sum of its parts. This comes from systems thinking, already back in the 1920s, understanding that if we work together with the different parts, we have a much stronger application in society. So the arts work with the parts. Vivian showed us the doll. Yesterday, we saw an example from collage, and we even saw an example from tourism, working with various parts with the art therapy right at the heart of the matter. The arts work with parts. They uncover patterns and form, and it leads to wholeness. The whole is larger than the parts. This is part of systems thinking and systems and pattern. Next slide, please. A system is an integrated whole, and that is what's happening when we introduce the arts as a form of restorative and preventative tool. I'm going to keep moving us further, but everyone will have access to this foundation also.
And since our time is beginning to come towards an end, we really encourage you to put your thoughts and feelings into the chat so that there's a way for you to begin to integrate some of what we'd be doing as Phillip finishes up his slide presentation.
So to work in unity towards creative collaboration, this is the takeaway with this slide. To work in unity towards creative collaboration is to discover the power of our collective relationships. discover the power of our collective relationships. Next slide, please. Collective relationships leads to a holistic worldview. I'm sharing these, I'll remind, to offer a foundation for the importance of us moving forward as arts therapists in terms of restorative, preventative, and working with the mental health of the nation, not only the individual, but of the nation. So the takeaway for this slide, unity through creative collaboration is a holistic view for prevention, resilience, and healing through the arts. Next slide, please. And this leads us back to our title of our presentation today, The Courage to Create. That title comes from the beginning of humanistic psychology, and I want to connect this to the work again that you all are doing on the ground, both in Ukraine and on the outskirts of Ukraine. And this leads us to human potential instead of human limits and symptoms and illness. So we have a responsibility to remind society and educate that we are dealing with health of all the people, the children and adults. Next slide, please. But that courage to create deals with the courage for each individual to reach out to their arts therapists and artists and teachers and educators and build communion. So building community resilience in times of crisis through the expressive arts. We spoke about expressive arts. We consider that concept as an integrated whole, working towards the healing and development of society, towards the revitalization and transformation and health of the individual, the group, the family, the community, and the nation. And this is working in all areas. We spoke about this last year in terms of collective trauma, how it takes mobilizing the entire, every aspect of society, working in all areas, education, mental health, healthcare, hospitals, religious institutions, civic and government, connecting with the government initiatives, the First Lady's initiative for mental health. But once we can introduce arts, we know we're bringing spirit and health back. Next slide, please. Thinking collectively, we search for meaning, we search for identifying what I need, what do we need, and this leads us to a new definition of expressive arts-based creative collaboration. Next slide, please. Building health in community, building healthy community through the arts, builds collective resilience, which builds healthy community, a beautiful spiral that just continues to inspire and offer us hope and inspiration. An expressive arts-based holistic healthy response to coping with the individual, the collective stress, the pain, and suffering. Next slide, please. So we're reminding, in terms of today and this conference, a creative collaboration takes courage. It takes breaking out of our silos. It takes understanding that how can I help you? How can you help me? How can we support all projects that occur, small and large? Next slide, please. And I'm going to end here in a moment. In terms of this foundation for collaboration, Vivian and I did, we thought a little about the 40 years of working as educators and therapists and working in hospitals with doctors and in the community. And I don't have time to go through these core human principles, but these exist. These principles exist when we as art therapists work with an individual, with a group, or in the community. We focus on one or five or the fourth or the eighth, but we are masters of the arts in terms of the service of humanity. And these components are always existing. So if a teacher presents art in the classroom, they're touching on some of these core principles. If an artist is working on an art project, they're touching on some of these principles. And these are these connecting principles that build integration. And I have to end in just a moment, so I'm just going to jump back to Vivian's start. Next slide, please. And Vivian began by having us think about our creativity, which leads us again to our courage to keep going. I believe when we work as artists and arts therapists and arts educators, that creativity is our highest human value. And I believe it gives us inspiration to wake up and continue this very difficult work. It does lead to depth of learning and listening and empathy. It leads to healing, body, mind, and spirit. Collective resilience within all communities. At the core is our creative ability to access our creativity and the creativity of the people we are working and living with. So I will end here. And before I close, I do want to remind, for some of us, that creativity is our spiritual calling. For others, we may have a more religious connection, which is lovely. But when we work through the arts, something that gives us hope is our connection to our spirit. And isn't that interesting and beautiful to think of spirit as life and breath, to inspire, to breathe in, to blow into the lungs. That is what we're doing when we share through the arts. We are breathing life towards resilience. Next slide, please. Would you like to close with a quote from Vivian and Phillip?
So, the arts mobilize passion and willpower in the service of our common survival. We are here now with you in this and in everything that you do. Thank you so very much.